Hi, namaste, and welcome to Breakout with me, Abha. Thank you so much for watching. As you know, we are committed on this show to bring to you exceptional people, game changers, thought transformers, people who have made new rules. They have been there and done that. And guess what? They have agreed to come here and share their success stories and also demystify this whole rules game for us so that we can break out of what we find limiting and break into something that we find necessary for us. From them, we learn that there is only one rule to life, and that is that there are no rules to life. We just make them up all on the way because everything is figure outable. My guest today, let me tell you, are you ready to kick some butt? Because this is a lady, a woman who has moved from being a policewoman to a professional butt kicker. Now, butt kicker, this is not the B-U-T-T butt, this is the B-U-T butt. Through her vast and varied experience as a speaker, as a policewoman, as a private investigator, as a security trainer, she developed a methodology and a mentality, a system called kick butt mentality. And she also developed the means to combat those bloody useless thoughts. Bloody useless thoughts. We've all been carrying them for years, aren't we? So now we're going to meet this firebrand speaker who's sought after as a speaker across the world. Thousands have experienced her phenomenal power as a professional butt kicker. And she has been showcased internationally by the Australian government as one of the 4 success specialists from Australia, officially recognized by the US government for extraordinary ability. She speaks solutions, she creates strategies for surefire success no matter what diversity or cultural challenge is thrown into the mix. Former girl in blue, gone from a cop to a penguin suit, and now an international author and speaker who combats crime at its creation, at the inception, at the bud. She nips it in the bud. That's the mind. Please welcome Rosie PEKAR. Rosie, how are you?
Wow, I'm really inspired just listening to you talk about me, Abha.
Yeah, that's you. That's all of you. And I think I had to cut it short because I need to let you speak.
Exactly. I was thinking when you said there are no rules, I actually only have one rule in life, which is always to kick butt, because we do carry those bloody useless thoughts around in our brain, and we have results or we have reasons, and those reasons I call those butts.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you, Rosie, tell me. I mean, I want to just go into your background a little bit, just to understand how you moved from being a policewoman, from being an investigator, to doing what you're doing now and inspiring people to actually go out kick butt. So you specialize in shifting thought, changing minds. To kick out those, and I am loving how to speak this the bloody useless thought, because it is so bloody important for people to be able to live expansive lives and experience true joy by kicking out those useless thoughts. Now we live in a world which is pretty much negative, fear-based. It's all like violence. There's crime everywhere, and you come from a place a person who's faced crime in real. So tell us, take us back to that place. Just give us a peep into where you were and what made you see the place where this happens and you were determined to change that.
Well, all of us run on a program called What's in it for me. We want what we want for the outcome we believe it will give us, like feeling good. Pretty simple. And I keep things very simple. That way everyone follows and understands. So prior to being a police officer, I actually came from an environment of domestic violence, and so had lived a life filled with fear well before I became a police officer. So I had my own personal motivation to seek out what would work in my life, because all that I was doing was giving me results I didn't want. I married at the time a man who ended up being an alcoholic, as well as still facing every day on the streets difficult and dangerous people. And this wasn't a life of a princess. It didn't match the quality that I felt inside I inherently deserved. So I read and researched extensively on many different religions, many cultures, many philosophies, many success strategies. and I'd try a bit here and there. And it's like baking a cake. You know, you have a few goes, you mix a few different ingredients in, you taste it. If it's terrible, you stop eating it. And I had to stop eating a lot of what I was doing, and it came down to that simple word, but. I kept saying, I could do that, but. And that was the ultimate negator.
Right. So I think whenever I go for my seminars, there's a thing called, we use this thing called butt busters. You know, this is why we just break into the best thoughts, that we bring in a butt and have an opposition thought playing at the same time, and not getting the results that we're looking for, because we will explain and justify to ourselves that what we are doing is right in some form. You know, so
exactly. And if we think of that, any topic we pick up, there's two ends to that topic, like a stick. So you can point that stick any direction, or as I consider it, you can dial, like for example, if you're feeling empty and unsatisfied, the opposite to that is being contented and being satisfied.
Right.
So if you dial up the appreciation of what you currently have that is satisfying, you are actually dialing down the drama of what's not working.
Exactly.
You can only be one or the other. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't.
Right. I agree. So I think this is what brings me to the next question, because all this, most of our behaviors and most of the stuff that we do and the things that happen in our lives are pretty much a result of what we are thinking, and pretty much a result of our own actions. And a lot of people do not want to take responsibility for that. Now, you've been saying that you want to break it down, or maybe nip it in the bud even before it starts, because it happens in the mind. So take us to the mind of a person who's actually gone ahead and committed a crime. You know, we're talking about personal growth over here. We're talking about good stuff. But if I were to ask you that a person has already moved from a low thought and taking it to a level of a crime, and then here comes Rosie as a police officer, as an investigator, what are you looking at in the head, and how did you realize at that point of time that, you know, it needs to be broken down at the point where it starts? Otherwise, it grows into something much bigger than it should be.
Yeah. Well, the point of awareness is always with the individual. So for myself, I'm not about changing other people. I'm about changing myself. And as I change myself, that representation that I am then reflects to others the opportunity to inspire them to want to do the same. So words don't teach, it's experiences. So for the mind of a criminal, they'll often have a very similar mindset and thought pattern. The thought pattern will be habits of low self-esteem. There'll be thoughts of how difficult things are, how hard life is, how challenging everything is, how unfair circumstances are, how it couldn't possibly be any other way. It is such a self-defeating mentality that their hurdle and burden is to overcome or come up over themselves to start with. And everyone looks out there to change themselves. Where's that $1 million I'm going to get that's going to change my life and make me wonderfully happy? Instead, we can see people become millionaires overnight that lose it many years later, and even then more, because they haven't changed up here, which is what you have to work with all the time. And it's the sneaky, it's not so much the big negative thoughts. People can identify them and say, yes, I'm feeling lousy. It's the little innocuous, insignificant words that do the most accumulated damage. Constantly talking about, oh yeah, I couldn't believe how unlucky I was. Oh, you know, this was so terrible. Or we build that drama up, and we like to talk problem. I start with one problem, you add your problem on, then you talk about your grandma's problem, and you talk about your long lost uncle's problem, your boss's problem, and it just becomes a momentum of such negativity that to attempt to stop that is to get flattened in the process. So identifying it smaller and being more aware of, does this thought make me feel good? Does this thought make me feel bad? And finding the feeling of relief in the thoughts adds that momentum.
While I'm listening to you, because a couple of weeks ago I was dealing with a person like this. This is somebody who's part of my family, you know, who has this mentality. Everything is a burden. You talk about something, he brings in his problem, and then it's like a problem over a problem over a problem. So tell me, because this particular person is not able to break out of this. He knows it's wrong. He knows it's self-defeating. He knows he's sabotaging himself. He understands that something is wrong over here. What must he do? I mean, it's almost like, where do we catch it when it goes haywire?
What I do, Abha, is I change it for me, because that's allowing that energy to infiltrate and intoxicate, toxic being the word, my own environment, my mental space.
Right.
So I'm about cleaning it up for me, my own environment, which is my energetic perspective. So my first words are, when they tell a problem, is what's good about that?
Right. What's good about that? Okay.
Nothing good about that. No, but if you had to find something good about that, what would be good about that? We don't let them off the hook.
Right.
But haven't you heard me?
Right.
You know, I've got yes, but if you were really to search really deep and find something good about that, what good would that be? Would it be that now you've got an increased awareness of many more experiences in life? Have you expanded your choice at the buffet?
Right.
That you realise you can pick that up or you can leave it alone. What is good about that?
Right.
And that's what I do. It's a pattern interrupt.
Right. Absolutely.
Breaks on then and there. I'm not going further down this line. And at the very least, they stop talking about the problem because they get so frustrated at you because you're not picking up and running with the baton that they've offered you.
Right. Absolutely. So now tell me, you say there are two schools of thought out there. One is one that leads you to more of what you don't want. And then that usually starts with a but. And this is where your kick butt mentality comes in. And the other one is which takes you towards where you want to go. So you always tell that by the results that we are having in our lives. So give us, because a lot of people out there, because I know I've been coaching for years now, people come up to me and they talk about their things, and there's this whole big but thing inside. They always have something to tell themselves about being right about what they're doing, and therefore the change is so difficult. Tell us of these two schools of thought and how one should get into that.
Okay. Well, being right is our greatest challenge in the 21st century, and it is crippling us. So I would like to lose being right. I prefer being rosy. I prefer having my answers that are applicable to me.
Yes.
And they work for me. So for each individual, if you've got circumstances in your life that you don't want, well, great. That's an indicator of how what you've been doing is working for you. Nothing more and nothing less.
Absolutely.
So failure, people use that word. I don't. I call it results I don't want. It's simply an indicator that there is more for me to pay attention to that's happening in my environment that I haven't been altering at this point.
Right.
So the first sign of that you're on the way towards what you want in changing from what you don't want, if you can identify it, you can rectify it. So you've got to be able to see it first to make a change, which is some of those statements. If you've got a buddy or a partner that you can talk with and say, I did this with my ex ages ago. I said, every time you're going to talk about negative statements, I'm just going to stand there and go, tra-la-la-la-la. And because I thought, no point saying what's good about that, because then he'd just keep going. He'd have to talk over the top of me. So in the end, I started doing this tra-la-la-la-la.
Yeah.
So in the end, one day in the kitchen, all they got from me in conversation was tra-la-la-la. And for me, it kept me in a feel-good state.
Right.
And that's the next indicator you're on the way to what you want.
Right.
So even though in your environment, there's always, like when you are listening on a radio station and you want to change from 1:12 a.m. to 1:24 a.m., you have to move the dial. And when you move it, there's some static and noise. It's not clear.
Right.
The same with us. When we're changing what we're attracting and what we're working towards, there can be some static that presents as confusion, presents as chaos, presents as, oh my God, I thought I knew what I was doing. Now everything's up in the air. That's perfectly fine, so long as your feelings are the indicator that you're feeling either relief, no longer the stress and pressure of all that you're under, or you're feeling excited, anticipating, expectant, and keen to be doing what you're doing. They're wonderful indicators that circumstances outside you no longer matter now, because that energy train is attracting new circumstances that will fill that space.
Always. And in your book, I mean, your book's called Time to Kick Butt. And you've talked very clearly. Yeah, that's the book. Is that you on the picture? Is that you on the cover?
That actually is, but it's a few years ago, so the legs.
Never mind. Your legs are looking great, and that pose. Yeah, I like that. So you tell me, you've talked in your book about the self-sabotage part, and this is where I think our thoughts are the biggest culprit, the biggest crooks in our lives, if we are not achieving the results that we are looking for, or we are still in an environment which we do not enjoy or succeed in. Tell us about your book. You showed us your book, and I think give us an overview of what the book is about. I think because I've read excerpts from the book. I've gone to your website and seen what you're doing. It's the ideas are brilliant of how to break out of self-sabotage. So give us a couple of pointers as to how people can now, if they were watching you now, what should we do? What could we do
Okay,
in
well,
terms of
the
understanding,
book
taking birth?
itself is created into 3 separate books. So the first part is because I said you've got to identify to be able to rectify what's not working, to defeat self-sabotage at the outset. So the 7 deadly sins of failure is at the outset so that we can understand what are the energy states we get into and how to make changes with them. The fastest way to identify any feeling state is through our thoughts, and when we have thoughts, we have words and language. So utilizing our language is a great means and an easy tool for change. So people that are used to a lot of drama, like, oh my God, I nearly died. Oh, my blood is boiling. I could kill him. These over exaggerated terms. The thing about our body that science has shown through psychoneuroimmunology and neurolinguistic programming that every thought we have releases a chemical in the brain, and you have about 60,000 thoughts a day. So that's a lot of chemicals mixing it up and creating emotional states that either feel good or feel bad within you.
Right.
Now, those that are used to using this larger than life language for drama generally are creating larger than life circumstances within their body because the brain doesn't have a sense of humor.
Right.
It says, oh, gonna kill him. Let's get everything in the body prepped up, ready for killing. Or, this is really giving me the shits is the language a lot of people say. Well, there's a bowel condition setting in. People go, Rosie, that's so simplistic. So when I say he really pisses me off, that's a urinary tract infection. It's like, well, that is simplistic. There is more to it, but I like to keep things simple so we get the message that you've got no free ride with your language.
Right.
If you're going to dial it up on great stuff. Right. Oh, it was so unbelievable how they got in touch with me. I don't even know where they found me, but now I've got this sensational deal. Right. It's going to lead to such a juggernaut of a business venture. I am just so astounded. Right. Use your energy and emphasis for what you want.
Exactly.
For the stuff you don't want, for myself, I challenge this because I don't believe everything I'm told. I put it to the test.
Absolutely.
And I recommend everybody else listening do exactly the same. But put it to the test for long enough, not do it once and then go, well, that crap never helped me none.
Right.
It's, commit to continual improvement and then observe the results. So for myself, I used the word years ago because I dealt with so much negativity, depressed. And I would feel depressed because you can't go out and face the vile things human beings can do to each other day after day.
Right.
And feel elated and overjoyed.
Absolutely.
So I did get depressed, but I discovered with the language of words, instead of saying I felt depressed, I said I'm a tad depressed. So I minimized it to the smallest I could be. And as I changed that language, funnily enough, in my life, my circumstances changed that the worst I ever experienced from then on was being a tad depressed.
Right.
So use the tools of language and body language because they've shown through science there is no difference. You think it, your mind believes it. Simple as that. Like right now, listeners could do an experiment by just imagine biting into a really juicy lemon. And as you bite into it, automatically saliva will start to come in your mouth. It's a natural response.
Right.
Whether you bit into the lemon or not. Some that are really sensitive will have their faces screwed up and others will just be a mild response. However, our body just follows suit. So the same with the language we use. Choose power words that are going to work for you and set it out beforehand. If you work on the phone a lot, have a list of 10, 20 words that are power words, that are different, not the same words again and again, because you drain the energy out of them through overwork and overuse and you no longer buy into it.
Right. So, Rosie, tell me, a lot of people, as far as I understand, and I won't, because I'm asking on behalf of a lot of people out there, resistance to change is something that a lot of people face within themselves, because what you're talking about needs, I don't say extraordinary, but I say it needs at least basic understanding of who you are as a person and what's going wrong with your life and what's right. So a lot of people stop there. It is very difficult for them to accept or embrace the fact that something could be wrong there in themselves. And that is where they stop.
Yes. Everyone wants to change the world. No one wants to change themselves.
Right. So now I'm asking Rosie how to help them change themselves rather than them
Okay.
changing the world.
Well, the first is inspiring to action instead of reaction. And people choose reaction in their lives again and again. They do their taxes the day before the taxes are due. They do their homework the night before the test is due. You know, we leave things pretty much to the last moment as much as possible because it seems painful to do. So therefore, if change represents pain, they're not going to be inspired to do it. So they have to find a way. And a long time ago, I was a cigarette smoker back in the police force, and this is my best example. Cigarette smoking to me at the time represented enjoyment. It was a stress relief. Now it would be my absolute nightmare, but nothing more X than X. And I wanted to give up smoking because by the time I hit 30, I said I never want to be seen, you know, with these dirty, smelly ashtrays around, and it just wasn't what I wanted in my life anymore. But I was addicted. I would have smoked in the shower if I could have. It was one of the hardest drugs I've ever had to give up. And at the time I thought, how do I make something that's enjoyable not enjoyable? Because the idea of not smoking was more painful. Right. I had to make the idea of not smoking pleasurable. I had to reverse the poles. And that's what people often have to do. Those that want to lose weight, they have to somehow think that foregoing on whatever I'm going to have in the moment in this pleasure, make it unpleasurable, and the outcome something they want to strive towards. So for me, for cigarette smoking, what I did is I told my friends, if you ever see me have another cigarette, I will eat a tin of cat food. Now, if you know my friends, they would make me eat the tin of cat food. So I made something, and this is just a simple example, something that was so pleasurable, so disgusting, because right. I knew if there was just a hint of cigarette smoke on me, my friends would be force-feeding me cat food to make me live up to my promise as a butt kicker. So therefore, that was my motivation right. to not want cigarettes. And I mean, I haven't smoked cigarettes now for 20 plus years, right. That incident. So there are means and ways of inspiring people, but it always is an inside job. So generally they look and see, I want that. How do I get that?
Right. So you talked about pain and pleasure, and a lot of people do not want to change because the whole idea of changing is pain for them. That brings me to the point of habits. You know, I think our habits in a big way, people don't realize this, and people think it's, you know, today I'm in a certain way, tomorrow I'll just go out because I've been in a seminar and everything's going to transform. But that's not the case. Habits are very, very important in forming your future, in making it a successful future or a failed future, or even a today or a present. So how important, I'd ask you to tell us, habits are formed because of various reasons. However, they are the things that need to be shifted, and they are the things that need to be changed.
Well, as people look around themselves, they can see, do I have mentors in my life that represent how I want to be? Are my parents those role models? Are my siblings those role models? Are my extended family? Often in that environment, we don't have what we want. We have less than optimal. And that's where all our training and education for our whole life has come from. And it's sad to say that in today's world, we don't receive this elite mind training tools unless you are an elite athlete or business person.
Absolutely.
And those that aren't at that elite level will often poo-poo it because it's new to them. Right. It'll be, oh, that's just nonsense. Oh, that's just that. And they haven't even tried it. Right. So that's where I say to people, for yourself, try it on. Pick one habit that you really don't like. As you mentioned earlier, you look at what is the opposite of that habit. So if I pick something really simple that a lot of people can relate to, say overeating is an issue. So therefore I want to eat, you know, more healthy foods, and I want to exercise a bit more. I want to feel fitter and enjoy my life while there's life in it. So you find the focus of what's pleasurable about it. Right. What's my habits that I do each day? Is it leading towards what I don't want or leading to what I do want?
Right.
That one habit. Say, for example, I sit down and I have an ice cream every night after dinner. Okay, well, instead of having it every night, what if I had it just on the weekend? And that one simple change is all that I made. Or I removed soft drinks entirely from my diet. One small change. But we commit to it and we make it continual because a habit is accumulative. It's not what you do on the one day. It's right. The one day plus the next day plus the next day. And it's not like at the end of a month, 30 days worth of growth. It's exponential. It's squared every day.
Exactly.
So you don't know that person that you will be
Right.
at that point because you're not there yet.
Right, right.
And that's why these people with changing just one habit
Right.
and committing to it continually just by a small percent that's doable, no-brainer, really easy, they find, wow, this wasn't at all hard.
Right.
I did this without really thinking about it. You know,
Right.
all I did was make an intention at the start. I put my attention on what I wanted. I kept my focus there. And now I'm living it. How did it happen? When did it happen?
Right, right. You know what? I just because in my experience, a lot of times commitment is very important. But people who are struggling with something like this or in the thought space even find it difficult to take a decision. Whether it is a thought out decision, it's they fear risk, they fear change because they find it out of their zones. Like you just said, it is new for them. They are not in that elite environment where thought is being given.
Exactly. So, well, before that, the pre-step would be you've got to get quiet. You've got to rest mind. You've got to you can't make a good decision from a bad state.
Right.
So if you're caught up and you're stressed and you're over anxious or overwhelmed, you have to find your means of getting calm and quiet, be it meditating, be it a walk in whatever natural environment you have around you,
right.
Be it in whatever surrounding of music you can play that brings you better feeling, whatever cat you have to pat, dog to pat, baby to play with, whatever gets you into a better feeling state. Once you get to a better feeling state, then is the time to allow your mind that free roam of, okay, if I were to pick one habit, what one thing is most important to me now? But never from a state of, oh my God, I must do this. Because willpower is such a puny player from our conscious mind,
right.
and our subconscious is what we want to tap into.
Right.
Our subconscious is what holds all the training we've had before the age of 7,
right.
most of it's ingrained before the age of 3, that is like an automaton that sets out our habits and actions and choices and reactions
right.
that just go on autopilot whenever a circumstance is served up to us.
Right.
So that's where we want it sinking into, the subconscious, and that's where we want to access and communicate. And we can only do that by actually taking time out from what is stressing us.
Right. And that I read a blog of yours and which says getting ahead for success. It's not getting ahead for success, but getting ahead, HEAD, for success. Tell us, because this is something really I feel, because I've been I've worked with Olympians and done mental strength coaching for them. They came from very different environments, and how difficult it was for them to, despite being elite athletes, they had to be trained, their mind had to be trained to focus on one thing. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. So what does ahead for success require you to be like?
Well, I use a 7 keyword strategy because, again, I like to keep things simple, and so that I have a rosy reminder. It is you differ. The key between those who succeed and those that don't is how you differ. And that's the acronym UDIFFER. And each one of those letters of the acronym represents more or less like a litmus paper test, a means to check, am I on track to what I want or off track heading towards what I don't want?
Right.
And as you check each one, you can correct anywhere along the line. So the first one to do with you, I'll leave till last because we are the beginning and the end of our results. So,
right.
And that's the biggest component. So I'll just shift that to the end at the moment, and I'll start with the D for desire, which is we must know what it is that we want. Many people with those problems or challenges, dilemmas can bring us a long list of all they don't want. Don't want more bills, don't want to have to do more work, don't want to have to blah, blah, blah. Don't. What I want is the exact opposite. What is it you want? And when you want it, people will say, happiness. And it's like, well, isn't that lovely? A pig sitting in mud is very happy.
Right.
Me sitting in mud is not. So
right.
What specifically is your happiness?
Right.
For some people, it's just getting, 5 minutes to go to the toilet without the kids running in. That is happiness.
Right.
For another person, it could be, they've just signed $1 million deal. That's their happiness. It's different barometers.
Right.
We don't tell someone else what it is. It's each individual. What is your definition of happiness?
Right.
Okay, what means do you have of identifying where you have happiness in your life right now? And with that, how much do you want what you want? Because people say, oh, I want happiness, but they have a belief system in their head that they have to do things they don't want to
Right.
get that happiness.
Right.
How do I use the things that I already want, that I already have, to have that? So it's just identifying where you're at, what you have. If there's a gap, then how do we plot the direction of the gap? The
Right.
next one is the I, and that helps us plot the direction. And that I is huge because it's about your individual imagination.
Right.
And as Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge.
Right.
So if you can dream it, you can then believe it, you can receive it. Simple as that. If you can't dream it, you ain't even in the ballpark.
Right. Right.
So if you can't even picture, like say right now I've got a book deal out, my 4th book with a US literary agent. I saw this before it even went to her, before I'd even received it. It's a done deal even before I've even signed with a publisher. And it was the same as my first book. I wrote it in 5 weeks, had 2 publishers interested the first fortnight after. It was not a consideration. It was there already in my imagination, already on the bookstore shelves, already being picked up.
Right.
So when we access our imagination, we make it real. It's not a pie in the sky. Oh, wouldn't that be nice if? It's a real matter of fact reality. Everything is virtual before it is in existence.
Absolutely.
So we're accessing virtual domains.
Right.
And we're specifically tailoring it. If you can't get specific around it without feeling bad, leave it alone.
Right.
If you feel good being specific about it, be as specific with your imagination as you like. Smell it, feel it, hear it. The sounds, oh, Rosie, sensational book, love what you wrote, reading the emails coming in, seeing that, you have received new funds, make it as active as you possibly can, then leave it alone, release it. So imagination, we utilize any opportunity, standing in queues at lines, when we're stuck in traffic. Daydreaming is such a powerful and potent tool. I cannot overemphasize it enough for people. But just to keep the timeline going, we'll move on to the next, which is F for focus. And focus is being able to fine-tune what it is you want. So instead of, many of us have a filtered focus, like, I want this, 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 this. And as my mother used to say, you eat with your eyes, Rosemary, because I'd go out when I was hungry and I'd want this, 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 this. But I could really only eat just this. So it's the same with our focus. What do you want? Can you name it to claim it? Are you able to imagine it as it's real? Can you focus on it to the exclusion of all else for the time being?
Right.
Can you put your attention there on the having of it, not the attention divided, which is what people do. They'll do a positive affirmation. Oh, I feel abundant. Oh, I feel like I'm receiving, the universe's wealth. Oh, darn, I've got this bill. Christ, how am I going to pay that with this one and this one? Oh, my God, where's this all coming from? And they've just knocked down that wall they started building.
Right.
So focus is your attention. It's your awareness.
Right.
Moment by moment, that's where you're committing continually to what you say that you want. And you are adding on to it again and again and again and again. So it's becoming more aware. That's what focus is. It's increasing your awareness.
Right.
The next step is for feelings and failure. And I included in here as an important strategy because some people get caught up with failure and think, oh, I'm not getting what I want. No, it's an indicator. Have you got your desire, knowing what you want? Have you been utilizing your imagination to work for you or against you? Most of us dream of the what ifs in a terrible sense instead of the what if, oh my God, I had amazing results. And then are you focusing on this or are you filtering it all over the place? So utilizing our feelings to dial up our appreciation for all the little signs along the way. And it might be a little sign like, I desire having this book publishing deal. All of a sudden I open my email and here's information to do with another friend who's just gotten a publishing deal. It's like, woohoo, that's a sign for me. It doesn't matter that it's to do with another person. Focus on what I want. Publishing deal. We see it everywhere. Books across us, people that are talking about things, comments mentioned on the radio. The signs are there all the time letting us know, are we on track or off track by how it makes us feel when we hear it. If we want so much money, but we talk about rich people and say, oh, yeah, they're ripping off this and they're doing this that's terrible and they're so stingy, and then why on earth would you ever be one of those people? Because you've already got them lumped in such a bad group. It's becoming aware of so much more that many people often don't pay attention to, but that's what You say responsibility, I use the word personal power.
Right.
So if you want to be powerful, which most people do, well, then you become aware of your own power and where you're giving it out and what you're taking in, that whether it's taking away from your power.
Mm-hmm.
So that feeling state is very important. So you can dial it down or dial it up, but make sure you know what direction you're headed in to amp up that appreciation. The next is the E for expecting nothing but the best. So again, that's irrespective of circumstances. And people say, but Rosie, you mean I'm to ignore that I have all these bills sitting here? No, it means to pay attention to how you have the means and ability in order to pay them, and that you also have unseen influences and energies they're willing to help you.
Right.
That you may not have your how worked out right now. That's not an issue. When I was a policewoman, that's how I learned to be a butt kicker, is because we had these big, horrible, heavily tattooed, drunk, angry men that were intent on not being arrested.
Right.
And part of my job, my solving a problem, as it were, was putting him into a divvy van.
Right.
And I'm 5'2" and not that resistant to a decent wind. So I didn't get to say, but he doesn't want to go, but he's really angry, but he's just double the size of me and going to squash me.
Right.
But was not an option. The how was always going to be negotiable. The result would be the same. The
Right.
result would be him under arrest in that divvy van.
Right.
The how every time was often an unknown. I didn't concern myself with that. I kept my focus on my result, and every time I got my man without fail under arrest. So it's the same with us. We expect that end result that we are focused on. End result is always foremost in mind, not the how. The how is the last.
Right.
So results is always first. The how, oftentimes we won't know how, and that's perfectly okay to give ourselves permission to go, right now I don't know how, but I know this is where I'm going and that's where I'm headed and this is what I'm having. So I'm open to all the ways of how this can happen.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we pick up a brochure and we go, oh, such and such. Oh, isn't that interesting? That was just what I was looking for.
Right.
So we don't have to have the answers. That's perfectly okay. And then the last part of the UDIFA strategy is the results. And results are just used to reset, rectify, or rejoice. We got what we wanted.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right.
But that big U, it starts, and I use a U, the letter U, not Y.
Yeah.
Though your reason why will be different for each person. U is we start the momentum and we start a downhill rush. We often have to do a leap of faith,
Right.
not knowing how things are going to work out. And we've got a lot of momentum when we go down. And if we keep that faith, it pushes us back up, if not higher, than where we were to start with. So we've set the start point. If we set that start point, keep our faith, the momentum will bring us to our reality, from virtual to real.
Right.
However, we also, as the beginning and the end, we start that set point, we take a leap of faith, we lose our faith, we lose momentum. That's the I.
Yes.
And that's where we strike out and we stay down here, which is not where we wanted it. And that's when we bring in the buts.
Right.
But I had too many things against me. But I didn't have the money. But I didn't have the support I needed. But my grandma wouldn't let me. But.
Right. I think it's a lot boils down to where you're going, what kind of results you're looking for, and to gain that kind of clarity over there. But what you were talking about, I mean, I'm reminded of The Secret, the law of attraction, and being able to imagine things into reality. And a lot of people will get stuck on the how. You speak about the law of attraction and the return of investment on mental energy.
Exactly.
And a lot of us are using our mental energy in a manner which is not going to bring us the results that we actually are looking for, which is what you were talking about just now. How does one now sort of bring in that mental energy together to be able to get to that point and say, okay, this is what I'm looking for?
Well, I use three key ways. And as you mentioned, it's a return on investment of what you're putting in is exactly what you'll get out with your mental energy.
Right.
So we have a return of investment in life with our finances. We have a return on investment in our body of what, good fuel in, good results out. And same with our mental construct. So we have three ways of accessing this energy. We can either use our memory by remembering incidents in the past. We often tend to do this with memories that don't feel so good.
Right.
We'll play them again and again and again and think, how could I have done this better? That remembering doesn't serve us. That's dialing up the drama, not the appreciation.
Right.
So we want to remember all those times in our life before when we were successful, when we did get what we wanted, when we were surprised pleasantly. So we use memory as a positive tool. The other way most people are operational is by, I won't turn that finger around, I'll use this one, is observing. They observe what's happening in their life and they just react and respond accordingly. And that is pretty much 98% of the population.
Right.
Just react to what they're observing in the moment. There is no power in that unless what you're observing is what you really like.
Right.
So the final point to get a return of investment of our mental energy is through our imagination. And I've returned back to that yet again. Through what you instill up here, it's like a blueprint for your existence.
Right.
If you don't put it in that blueprint, it won't be there in the end reality. And quantum physics has shown and demonstrated clearly that not only is there no such thing as a neutral thought, but the thoughts have a power of entanglement that once you connect, so for example, we can be thousands of miles apart.
Right.
We've connected. Our energy now is forever entangled,
right.
whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
And so to the extent that you go up, if I'm on an easy flow, I am automatically lifted up at
right.
a higher energetic level of
right.
attraction. To the extent that you go down, if I'm on a higher level, you actually can't go down too far
right.
because you are connected to me. However, if I am on a low level, we can go down and we can continually pull each other down. So that's why I say seek out those people that embody what you aspire to.
Right.
You know, connect with them, communicate with them, write to them. All it takes is just that energetic connection of a thought,
right.
and you are forever entangled.
Right.
Distant, there is nothing that will ever separate it. And that works to your advantage with all that's good, but not so much to your advantage for all that's bad. But it adds the impetus of why you should have personal power in your life,
Absolutely.
not give that power away.
Brilliant. This is I think this is where people do not see clearly what that law of attraction or the energy fields are doing for us, and why it is important for us to keep our energy raised. And for that, we need to work on ourselves first before we can reach out to more people who are living in high energy.
And most people couldn't understand how thoughts affect things before the
right.
advent of the Wi-Fi, the internet,
right.
radio waves. All of that technology has paved the way for people to now understand how unseen and invisible influences do actually physically and mentally affect us.
Absolutely.
So now they can open their minds that smidge more to go, well, maybe, you know, it's only 20, 30 years ago that we didn't believe that the mind and body were connected.
Right.
Somehow we thought they were separate entities. It's like, what thinking brain could possibly entertain that thought? But that's what people have been educated and entrained with, and the masses have bought into. But thank goodness now there's so many people and so much in science that it's finally endorsing and showing how you can live a great life now, and you need nothing outside of yourself, just what you have right this moment.
Absolutely. I think it's important, and I think people are now opening up to the idea that this exists, and there is a possibility sitting over there which a lot of people never saw. And within the 20, 30 years, we've seen the possibilities increasing to a place where we could not have imagined that something like this could have happened at that point of time, maybe 20 years ago. So now in your book and also on your website, I saw you say life must be lived from a place of the deepest desire. And people are fearful of even going there because the world tells them that this is not possible, not upmarket, not good, not what they were, like or approve. So a lot of people stop at that place where they think, what if, and that is equal to the but that you're talking about. What if this doesn't happen? What if people don't like it? What if somebody comes and disapproves of it? What if, there's a big what if standing in front of all these 98% people who are thinking it is not going to happen? From your kick butt mentality, from that methodology that you've developed, your book, and that the process that you've developed, and where people should not be sabotaging themselves, why is it important to get rid of this what if?
Well, we all have an inherent desire to fly. It's a natural I call it a spiritual inherent desire that we all have, that we are so much more than we've ever realized or made real whilst here physically. So that natural desire is what will carry us. What feels painful to us is when we stop that natural desire with the what if, with the but. And the reason it feels so painful is because it's untrue. And it's untrue to the core of our essence. And if we understand and can be made to see how phenomenal and astounding our actual true abilities are, we will never ever settle for second less, second best, ever again. And that is my goal in all of my books, all of my audios, all of the programs, is to raise people's awareness of not only their potential, but what they can genuinely realize here and now, and needing nothing other than the intent to do so.
Right. So that is actually, I love what you do. That's why I reached out to you and I said, let us speak. Let me take you to the personal side. You're also the wow mom. I'd love to hear about that personal side of you, because you have a boy who's how old is he? 7, 8?
He just turned 8 in early February.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. So he's at a place where I think he must be a lot of fun, because I have a 12-year-old and I have a 22-year-old, so this is two different worlds. So now with an 8-year-old, and you have written a blog which says "Wow, Mom," and I think motherhood. For all the women out there who keep sort of doubting their own selves, of thinking whether they're doing this one right and whether they're doing that one right. You've got the act together by doing that one right, and the middle one right, and the last one right, and the wow mom right. So tell us about that.
Well, I've been really blessed in that I call my boy Delightful Dane, and I was 41 when I fell pregnant, and I was still putting it off. I've never bought into biological clocks, the same as I don't buy into a lot of other mentalities that the world likes to serve up on a platter. So he arrived 6 weeks early, and he was, from that moment and every moment since, has been so delightful. He travels the world with me. He loves going to all the different locations and places.
Right.
And he stays happy and delightful, and he has been my master teacher.
Right.
Because I can remember in the middle of the night, back when he was only about 2.5, 3, not speaking too many words, or whatever, I can't even remember back that far. It's only 5 years ago. But I remember I was just so tired. I'd been up through the night with him with a fever, and I never brought him into my bed to sleep. I always wanted him having his independent space and not feeling mollycoddled in a sense, or him there for me. This was about him having his space.
Right.
So this night, because I was so exhausted and so tired, I brought him in the bed with me, and he kept waking up distressed, and I'd be like, oh, I was just so loud in my protesting of, expressing my discomfort.
Right.
And he sat up and he leant forward and he gave me a kiss, and he just said, "It's okay, Mama." Oh. And I went, wow. My kid is the one who is sick with a raging fever, and he is going without all the sleep, and yet he has got good spirits and energy that I can't even muster up any.
Right.
And I thought, there was my great teacher. Just because you feel miserable is no reason to be miserable.
Be miserable. Absolutely.
And that then was a real turning point for me, because I had been running on lots of my own, I wouldn't even go into it because it's just blah, 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 drama, difficulty, problem, drama, difficulty, problem, drama. And it went on and on and on and on. And I compounded it though I knew better. Right. And just because we know better doesn't mean we do better, And, well, actually, that's incorrect, because if I actually did know, I would have done. So to know and not to do is to not yet know. Exactly. So I guess, I knew it up here, but I didn't know it in here, and that's the difference. And he has helped educate a lot with the unseen influences that I otherwise kept discounting.
Right.
And I had another lady who was like my second mother. Both my parents were deceased earlier in my 20s. And this other lady was my aunt. And she had unexpectedly passed away and I wasn't aware of it. I'd received a Christmas card and I was driving and I'm opening my mail while I'm driving. Don't do that, people listening. As an ex-cop, not a good example. Sometimes I was a good example, sometimes I was a good warning. So I'm opening the Christmas card and out fell the obituary notice. And when it fell out, I knew straight away it was my aunt. And I'm trying not to be hysterically upset whilst driving because I didn't want my 3-year-old son in the back
Right.
being distressed, seeing mummy distressed.
Right.
And he turned to me and he said, Mum, what does comfort mean?
Mm-hmm.
And why are you asking, son? And he said, the angels are here and they're saying comfort mummy.
Wow.
Up until that point, I had not used the word comfort with him. I had not used the word angels.
Right.
So to me, that was like just such a positive reassurance
Right.
that all of us always have help from so many unseen quarters. So no matter how dire or desperate circumstances
Right.
seem, we've always got to just ask.
Right.
Ask, put it out there.
Okay, I got goosebumps with that one. So I think children are the biggest teachers, and I think if we can let them be, just let them be, I think they come up with stuff that we can not even imagine after all the conditioning that we've gone through and thinking, oh, the world is so miserable, it's all so much full of, wrong people, and it's all so much bad and all so much difficulty and problem. So I completely sort of, it's been a joy talking to you. I extended the time because I think I did not want to stop the conversation. I think we should talk more. Maybe 6 months from now we can come up with something else.
Definitely.
And we must.
Well, the new book should be out, Abha, in 6 months. So
wonderful. Just let me know when it is there. So we must talk about that book as well. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for speaking about your work. And it's really inspirational. We must kick a lot of butt. We must throw the what ifs out of the life. We must start to do things that we really want in life rather than worrying about what we do not want. And that is what I think your message is.
Well, in a nutshell, finding more ways to feel good and less ways to feel bad.
Absolutely. And so we have to stop feeling bad. We have to stop, just go out there and be. Seriously, just be. Enjoy ourselves and live fully. So thank you so much, Rosie, for your time.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. And this was Rosie Pekar. You have to go look for a book, Time to Kick Butt, because she is an ex-police woman. She's an investigator, and she's moved to this place where she's now helping tons and tons of people, thousands of people across the world to kick butt, the B-U-T butt, not the B-U-T-T butt. So enjoy kicking your butt and kicking everybody else's butt around you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.